Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think I noticed. Okay, Allah Oshun. All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Okay, so Tech Academy is an edtech revolution that bridge the gap between education and employability in a data-driven, file-centric world. We specialize in practical industry-relevant training across key technology domains, including Microsoft 365 administration, Power Platform, business intelligence development, data engineering, analytics engineering, database administration. Trust me, our courses are well designed to not just teach, but to also transform learners to job-ready professionals, where you gain extra confidence and the capability to solve real-world problems. I'll take a walk through our data engineering course. So in the course, normally the course lasts for 6 months, and during the course of the training, you will be exposed to topics like Python for data engineering, SQL, data modeling, Azure, and the rest of it, as you can see here, right? Then while we are also taking the trainings, we are also keeping you up and getting you ready for certifications like the Azure Data Fundamentals and the Azure Database Administrator Associate. Moving on, I would like to quickly introduce the brain behind Techie Academy, who also is the facilitator for today's webinar. I mean, we're talking about Benga Adeyemo, a highly skilled senior business data analyst, renowned for his extensive expertise in Microsoft technologies and a strong foundation in data analytics. Today, he'll be taking us on the topic, Introduction to Microsoft Azure for Data Engineering. And I am Sat, and I'm sure you're also ready to gain every insight he's ready to pour into us today, this evening. From my end, it's evening, right? So as the course of the training and webinar goes, I'll be expecting to get feedback from every one of you. I'll be sharing this link in the chat. So please do well to drop your feedback and your thoughts and insights, as we value them and would love to hear from you. Also, if you'd like to connect with us, of course you'd like to connect with us, you can connect with us on our social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow us on LinkedIn. I'll be sharing these links in the chat. Very quickly, so we don't take too much of your time, which is very precious, of course, I'll be introducing and I'll be giving the space for Mr. Benga to come on stage now. Mr. Benga, if you're available, you let me know. Hi, Mr. Benga.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very well now.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction.
All right.
And hello, everyone. I'll just give you like 2 seconds now coming. Okay, I'm going to be sharing my screen. Before I start sharing screen, once again, I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining today's call. As we know that in the data world, there's a lot to learn, and learning seems unending. But at the same time, learning is something that we should always enjoy, because the more we know, the more opportunities, the more visibility for us. That's the belief that we have at Techie Academy. And one of the things that we're also doing is that we are trying to simplify tech education. We are trying to make you understand that anybody can know anything, regardless of your background, regardless of, it doesn't matter your credential, whether you have a degree or not, right? We are teaching skills that are, that are very useful in this our current century, right? And one thing I can tell you for free is that tech education doesn't have to be hard. It all depends on who is teaching who and how the person knows how to, explain stuff in a simple way that beginners are going to understand it. And one of the reasons why we are organizing this webinar today is because we have done some research, asked some people questions, and we realized that there's a lot of people who want to actually learn stuff, but because the buzzwords are too much, and sometimes those buzzwords can actually be overwhelming to people, and they feel like, oh, they cannot actually know this thing. Maybe it's for like the brilliant people, and it's not actually like that. But that's why I said earlier that it depends on who is explaining what to who. Right? So let's have an open mind. Also, what I said, what I posted on my LinkedIn was that this particular webinar is not for those that already have some intermediate or advanced knowledge of Azure, or they've been building stuff in Azure. They can come in here to contribute, which is actually not bad. We would like definitely appreciate that. But this is like for pure beginners, those that have a 0 to -0, if there's anything like that, knowledge about Microsoft Azure, right? They are the ones that this program is meant for. And we're just going to dive into some of the basic concepts that you need to understand to start. So this is like a switch, or is like you're igniting you, so you start this thing, start learning this thing, right? This will be like a foundation for everyone who wants to really, build a career in Microsoft Azure, especially for the, focus more on the Azure data services. So we'll just take you through some theoretical parts. We'll now do some little practical, just for you to see how to build a simple pipeline inside of your Azure Data Factory, right? But before we get there, I'm going to share my screen, introduce myself a little for those that are seeing me for the first time, and we'll go into the concept of cloud computing before we go into Azure and other things I want to discuss today. Let me share my screen now, and please let me know if you can see my screen. Please let me know in the chat section if you can see my screen. Gillian, can you see my screen? Okay, thank you, David Bamjele. So what are we here for today? We are here to learn about basics of Microsoft Azure for data engineering. And sincerely, I would say that if you know SQL, intermediate level SQL, you are almost, you are going to you are building your skills like the advanced part of, SQL, like the common table expressions, the subqueries, the Windows function, and all of those advanced ones. I mean, I can assure you that you have the basics of becoming a data engineer, or what some companies call business intelligence developer, right? You are at a starter if you know, I mean, at least SQL, right? Some people will say, well, Python is very important too. Yes, very, very important too. But at the same time, I can assure you that even with advanced SQL, you are good to start. Now, today we are here for introduction to Azure Data Engineering, and this is me. My name is Benga Adeyemo, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm the founder of Techie Academy. I'm a Microsoft certified Power BI data analyst associate. I'm certified as a fabric analytics engineer. I'm also a Microsoft Office specialist, Excel associate. I have more than 5 years of work experience. I'm a technical trainer. I've been training now since 2019. And I can actually have trained more than 3,000 students, whether it's a paid class or community class, right? I'm currently working in X sector. I've worked in manufacturing. I've worked in retail, you know. I've worked in supply chain and logistics, capacity before. I've deployed solutions in terms of reporting, in terms of reports, rather dashboards, and collaborating with stakeholders to understand their needs in general. And I'm also building my data engineering skills also, just like every other person here. In terms of my technical skills, I would say I know Microsoft Excel, I know Power BI, I know SQL, SSI, SSAS. I have a good knowledge of them. Microsoft Fabric, the new baby in town. Microsoft apps, I'm concerned with the model driven and the Canvas app, and also Power Automate to do some automation stuff, right? So that's basically me. We are not here today because of me per se, but because of what we want to learn. So today is not about me. What is cloud computing? Let's start with that. We need to lay a foundation in that before we even go ahead, for other things. Now, cloud computing simply means using computers, storage, and services over the internet instead of keeping everything on your own device. So imagine that your whole computer system, I mean your laptop, desktop computer, being able to access the same kind of capability that you have inside of your local computer, your own system, being able to access those kind of capabilities over the internet. That is cloud computing, right? So it means that you are being able to access the same or even greater computing power, right? And storage that we normally have on our local computer, right? But now through the internet without needing a physical device. Now, let's look at our computer system. For example, your computer, you can store files, open folder in your file explorer, you can store files, you can browse, you can, you know, uh, you can, set up like some settings or configure some settings that will determine how you are able to access stuff, like based on maybe your like private endpoint or IP address and all of those things, right? So being able to, please, can you mute yourself, please, if you are, please, everybody, please try and mute yourself, uh, so that we are recording this and it's going to be on YouTube. So we don't want to be editing, doing too much of editing. So if you can mute yourself, please do that, especially if you're in a noisy background or you have kids around the house. So now being able to access the same capability or even greater one, greater computing power, right, over the internet without you even needing your physical device or physical computer, right? Let's go ahead. Now, let's look at some examples of computing power that we have on our own computer, like our own local computer. For example, on your computer, you have processor. That is your CPU, GPU power, right? That helps you to run softwares, your calculations, if you are playing games or you are doing simulations, right? Your processor is what helps you to run, that helps you run those softwares that you've installed on your computer, right? Yeah, your computer system also has memory, right? That allows you to open multiple applications and work smoothly, right? Um, Storage, you have your hard disk, right? On your computer, you have your hard disk where you save your files, your photos, your videos, and even set up files for your softwares, right? Now, your system has operating system and applications, right? For example, like your Windows is the operating system, right? You install applications like your Word, your Excel, your whatever games or tools that you use on your laptop, right? You can do that because of the operating system and that ability to install applications on your computer, right? And networking, right? On your own computer, on your laptop, you can connect to the internet, you can browse, you can send emails, you can do all of that. So these are examples of some of the computing capabilities that your own local computer, your own local device gives you, right? That you can run, you can do on them. I hope you understand that. Now, let's take an everyday example when we talk about, cloud computing. For example, you guys use Google Drive, right? You use Google Drive, and for a Google Drive, you don't have to, that means that you don't have to store files on your phone, right? You can store them, for example, on your Google Drive. You can save your pictures, save your files, save an entire folder inside of. So anytime you need to access it, you go there, you access it, right? If you need to download from there, you can download from there. But the concept that we are trying to make clear of here is of about cloud computing is that there are platforms that gives you the opportunity to be able to save your stuff inside the cloud. That's what we are trying to say. And Google Drive is an everyday example, something simple that we can relate with, that we understand, right? Your Gmail, for example, you can send out email, right? And they were all on that Gmail platform, right? You can send out email, uh, you know, you can send out mails on your Outlook, on your Gmail, and the rest. Now, let's take a look at Netflix, right? For those that subscribe to Netflix, now when you subscribe to Netflix, and you start watching movies, what that means is that you don't need to download the movie on your own local device before you start to watch those movies. You don't need to download them, right? All you need to do is to pay for the subscription, and you have access to a lot of movies that you can watch without having to download. So that saves you space, right, on your local storage. It saves you space. That means that Netflix as a cloud computing platform, right? All the videos, all the movies that you watch are saved on the cloud without you needing to download them before you start watching, right? So these are like examples, like everyday examples of things that we can relate to. So in simple terms, what can we say is cloud computing? So the cloud, what we call cloud, right, is like you are renting a space, right? Instead of owning it, you are renting. That means that you don't need to own the space, but you rent the space, and sometimes it's usually like pay as you use, right? Like pay as you use. So you pay for only what you are using. You pay for only the space you are using as part of your rents, right? So that is the concept of cloud and cloud computing. So instead of buying that your own powerful computer, right? You used all the resources that are available for you on that cloud platform, right? And you pay for what you use. Now, what is Microsoft Azure? What is Microsoft Azure? Azure is a cloud platform, or you can say it's a cloud computing platform. Now, it's a huge collection of computing services like servers, right? Storage, for example, your databases, that you can access over the internet. It means that I don't need to worry myself about having a physical server or a room that will be like a small data center where I will have different kind of hard disk everywhere because I'm trying to store data, right? It means that I can have a server, I can create a server, I can create databases, and I can access them over the internet. That's the interesting thing. And also, it gives me the chance to also create storage accounts, what we call storage accounts, storage systems, where you can store all kind of stuff, where you can store all kind of stuff. And we are going to really, also dive into the concept of data lake for you to understand how it's different from your what you are used to, which is your relational database management systems that you are used to, right? The concept of data lake came to being some years ago, and I think probably that concept started with Databricks. And the idea was that you could store both structured, semi-structured, and structured data, like all in a particular location, like in a place. I mean, it takes all kind of data in, right? That's the interesting part. Now, guys, if you have questions please, along the way, please always like use the raise hand button, and I'll definitely come to answer your questions. I don't know it all also. I'm also learning like you, but we can all, share the knowledge together, right? Now, as I said earlier, most cloud platforms, including Azure, usually pay as you go. It means that you pay for only what you use, right? Now, let's dive into a little history of Microsoft Azure. How did they all start? So in 2008, rather, Microsoft announced a cloud platform. They called it Windows Azure at the beginning, right? They called it Windows Azure. Now, it was first shown at a developer conference called PDC 2008. At this time, AWS was already in the market, right? It means that AWS came into being before the advent of Windows Azure, right? But Microsoft too wanted to compete in the markets in terms of creating a cloud platform that they can call their own. Now, what happened in 2010? 2010 was when they eventually launched Windows Azure. Don't forget that what they called it at first was Windows Azure, right? And it officially became public, right? It started with the basic services like your compute, which is like virtual machines. For those that don't know virtual machines, so they are just like when you are creating a whole computer system and somebody can access it without needing to use someone's physical computer. Don't worry, maybe I'll still explain later for you to understand better, right? Like it came with storage and networking. That was in 2010. Now in 2014, they changed the name, right? From Windows Azure, it became Microsoft Azure, right? Reason was because it was no longer about Windows, right? Azure now supported Linux, open source tools, and many programming languages, right? Now, in 2010, that was the growth phase for the platform. Now, Azure expanded quickly in 2010. They added services like Azure SQL database, that's for your cloud databases, Azure App Services for hosting applications, Azure Data Factory for orchestration and data movement, and for data processing. This Synapse, right? Synapse, like the all-in-one unified analytics platform. Databricks, they also embedded Databricks inside of Azure for big data engineering, right? And also AI and machine learning services. That was the growth phase for Microsoft Azure. Now, in 2020s, See today, right? 2020 today, what has happened? Microsoft Azure has now become one of the top two cloud providers in the world alongside AWS. So it means that when you are talking about cloud platforms in the world, right, you will mention Azure and AWS as the top in the market. That is why for beginners, I would recommend, but it all depends on the country you are in, and you have to study the market very well. So if for example, now in Nigeria, I'm very sure Azure, the likes of like DBT and Snowflake. I don't know much about DBT and Snowflake in the market, in the Nigerian market. For those that are in the US, I know that AWS is like the top leader in the market. For those in Canada, UK, Australia, that are majorly Microsoft countries, Microsoft Azure is very popular and in demand, especially for data engineering kind of role. So you have to look at the market of where you are currently staying or your current country of residence and look at what is trending there. But I can tell you that Microsoft Azure is very popular in the market, and the demand for it is a lot. And with the way the data world is going now, knowing Power BI, Excel, and SQL alone is actually good. Don't get me wrong, but one needs those extra skills that will set you apart from the crowd. So while others are talking about them connecting Power BI to flat files, connecting Power BI to different kind of non-relational database management systems, kind of data sources. You are talking of Azure. You are talking of connecting using Azure Data Lake to Azure SQL databases, that you understand pipelines and all of those things. Like, it gives you more edge over others. Even while you are interviewing or you're trying to get a job. So that's the reason why this is very important. Like, you need to start building skills, cloud skills, as they will call it, right? Now, Microsoft Azure now powers a lot of companies, governments, startups worldwide. Azure has over 200 services. Imagine that. That's why they call it platform as a service, or is it platform as a service? Sorry, right? And runs in 60 global regions. We're going to explain that, because when we talk about data centers, right? So, for on-prem, in on-prem context, we talk about servers, databases, schema, and all of those, right? But in Azure, you don't need to be the one to set up the server. Like, you're not the one that will, there's no need for you to have that physical server somewhere, or your disk space somewhere, that physical disk space somewhere, occupying, the whole place. You don't need to be adding, and by the time you need more storage, you need to buy more disk space and the rest. No. But because of cloud, because of Azure, you don't need that, because they are the ones already provisioning that foundation for you, right? All you need to do is to pay for what you want to use the services, use the capabilities that comes with subscribing to the platform, right? And you're going to enjoy a lot of things within the platform. Now let's go ahead. Now let's talk about this very basic important concept. That's the concept of service in Azure. When we say Azure service, now Azure service is the capabilities that comes with you subscribing to the platform. So let me give you a very good example of what I'm saying. So let's say, for example, you subscribe to a particular restaurant. Maybe that restaurant is like, you pay like $10 in a month for you to be a member of that restaurant. So it's for exclusive people, not for general. It's not like a walk-in restaurant. It's only their subscribers, their registered members that comes in there that can buy food there. I'm just giving that scenario as a good example, just for me to illustrate an example of what I'm saying. Now, as a member of that restaurant, as a member of that club or restaurant or whatever, one of the things that you can do is that you can come into the restaurant, eat as much as you can. It's like a buffet system. You come in there, if you like, you can eat rice and chicken here. You are done with that one. You go to another section, you take pepper soup and whatever. You go to another one, you eat porridge and stuff. So now the subscription fee is what you pay one time. It might be like on a monthly basis, it might be on a bi-weekly basis, it might be on a yearly basis, right? Now, so far you pay. you have access to all the foods that are in that restaurant, right? Now, when you have an Azure subscription, right? When you subscribe to the Azure platform, you have access to different kind of services, right? And Azure is not only meant for data people, those that are doing networking, DevOps. I mean, name any IT parts that does not have a service that they can use in Azure. Those of us are into data, those that are into networking, the DevOps team. I mean, name it, just name it. A lot of services that you can use. So it means that when you subscribe for the platform, there is a lot of capabilities that comes with the platform that you can use depending on your use case and the solution that you want to build. I hope what I'm explaining is clear. If it's not clear, please let me know. Now, let's go back to the example of the restaurant I talked about. That you have subscribed to that restaurant, you are a member. So, as a member, the membership comes with some benefits. You can go there at any time, eat. But now, they might put a rule to say you cannot take the food out of the restaurant. I've seen this kind of places before. But as a member, you can come there anytime. You can sit down there from morning to night and be eating as much as you can eat. That's the benefit of a member. You can even have your family members as part of your membership subscription, right? Now, let's go back to Azure again now. Now, when you subscribe to Azure, there are some capabilities that comes with it. I said it before. Now, it now depends on the services that you want to use. It's not everything that you use. Of course, there are more than 200 services inside of Microsoft Azure, right? So it's not everything that you use, but the ones that relate to us as a data professional, data engineer, data analyst, Power BI engineer that is trying to do the end-to-end of the old data workflow. That person needs to use the capabilities that relates to data services. And then we talk of Azure Data Factory, storage account like your ADLS or Azure Blob Storage. We talk about things like your, virtual machines. We talk about things like your Azure Synapse and a whole lot of things like that relates to those things that relates to data, in the context of Azure, right? Now, in terms of Azure services, there's even like different categorizations. There are some services that relates to AI and analytics, some relates to networking, some relates to machine learning, blah, 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 blah. It all depends on what you want to use. So some examples of services in Azure, we have database service. Like your example, if you create an Azure SQL database, that is a database service. Now we have storage service, where we create storage accounts, right? That gives us the ability to create storage accounts for like your ADLS Gen 2 and your Azure Blob Storage, right? We have compute service like your Azure virtual machines, right? And when it comes to security and secret service, we have something called the Azure Key Vault. We are still going to go into it and you see the practical of it if time permits us. Now, Azure services are the different tools and solutions that you can use on Microsoft Cloud. Each service does something specific, right? Like storing data, running applications, analyzing information. So you don't have to build everything from the scratch. Now, let's go ahead. Now, let's look at some of the main categorization of Azure services for beginners. Now, compute services. That's the brain power in the cloud. Example is your virtual machine. Azure Functions, Azure App Service. What are they used for? To run programs, applications, data processes without needing your own computer. We have storage services, that's where your data lives, where you store data. Example is your Azure Blob Storage, your Azure Data Lake. Now, these service is used to what? Store files, structured data, and if data safely and accessibly. Now, we have database services like where you store your organized data, just like your relational database management systems, like your SQL Server, right? We have Azure. So it's the version of that SQL Server on the cloud now. It's called Azure SQL Database. We also have another one called Cosmos DB, right? And what is the use case for this? For storing data, to query data, and manage data efficiently. Now we have networking services. That is how things communicate. Example is your virtual network, which is called VNet. It's called VNet. We have load balancer, content delivery network, CDN. And what's the use case here? For connecting applications and for users to secure applications around the world. Now we have another category of services, the analytics and AI services. And this one we talk about things like Azure Synapse, Azure Databricks, machine learning, right? This for analyzing large data sets, build predictive models, and make smarter decisions. We have the security and the management services where we keep everything safe and running smoothly. That's where we talk about Azure Active Directory. I think it's now called Azure Entra ID or something, if I'm correct, right? We have Azure Key Vault, we have Monitor. Now, what is Azure Resource? Now, we've talked about services, right? And you've seen the different categorization of Azure services, right? Now, let's talk about resource. What is resource? Now, a resource in Azure is an item you create or use in Azure. So let me explain that to you. And let me go back to the restaurant example I talked about the other time. So, as a member of that particular restaurant, you can come into the restaurant and eat. Now, your membership comes with the opportunity for you to come there anytime and take what you like. That is service. Resource is now an instance of that service, is resource. So what do I mean? Let me go back again to the example of a restaurant. So when you now come to the restaurant and now use the benefits, the opportunities that comes with the membership, that is now resource. Now, Azure as a platform gives you the opportunity to gives you, for example, storage service is part of the capabilities that comes with the platform. Now, when you now create a storage account, because the platform gives you the opportunity, it comes with the capability of the platform, that now become a resource. It's no more just a service which you have access to use or deploy or implement. Using it now becomes a resource. I hope I'm clear, please. If it's not clear to you, please let me know in the chat section. If it's clear to you, please say yes in the chat section before I go ahead. So I'm not just explaining things that probably is not clear, because I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. Okay, let me come again. So okay, thank you. For those that said no, let me come again. Now, I told you that service is the capability that comes with using the platform. It means that when you subscribe, you have access to different services inside of the Azure portal, right? I mean, things that you can do, things that you can create, things that you can deploy. When you now create it, for example, I said Azure platform comes with database services. Now, that is a service that comes with the platform, things that you can do. When you now do it, it now becomes a resource. Is it clear to you now? When you now do it, it becomes a resource. When you've not done it, it's just a when you've not created it, it's not yet a resource. It's still a service. That means it's a capability that comes with the platform, right? Now, when you now start to actually, thank you. Good example, Timothy. Good example. When you pay for Netflix, that is the service. You are paying for the service of being able to watch a movie. Now, when you now start watching the movie, now becomes a resource. Thank you. Good example. Thank you for that, Timothy Maiwa. So that is how it is for Azure. So an instance of that service is now a resource. So I have the ability to eat as much as I can. When I go to the restaurant and now start eating, that is a resource. I've used what the platform, I've created something that the platform offers me to create. I don't know if it's clear to you now, guys. Can I move on? Is it clear? Please say yes, no in the chat section. Is it clear now? I'm not seeing any response. Okay, thank you, Ezekiel. Now, A resource is an instance of a service that you create, configure, and use. It represents the actual deployment of that service, right, in your subscription. For example, you create a specific SQL database, right, because the platform gives you the chance to do that. Now, you create a storage account because the Azure platform comes with the capability to create that storage account. So you now create it out of because of that capability. Now, you create a virtual machine called Prod Web 01 and you deploy that virtual machine because there is a capability for you to do that based on the fact that you are using the platform, right? So that is resource. Now, let's go ahead. Now, in Microsoft Azure, there's a hierarchy to the way things work. Now, the highest hierarchy is the tenants. Your tenant is, for example, www.contoso.com. That is your tenants. That's where you manage users, you manage security groups, you manage permissions and stuff. I think it's now called Microsoft Entra ID, if I'm correct. You can, if I'm not correct, please let me know if I'm saying the wrong thing. Now, we have next in hierarchy, we have management groups. So management groups is optional. It's only for large organizations that they have different kind of subscriptions for different purposes, and they want to like categorize and group some together. We have management group, but it's optional in the hierarchy. Now we have subscription. You have subscriptions. That's like they have your actual payments, right? When you subscribe to something, like you understand that, right? Subscriptions. Now we have resource group. Resource group is like a container that holds different resources. It means that in the resource group, I can have different kind of resources there. I can in a one resource group, I can have Azure Data Factory, Azure Synapse Workspace, Azure Databricks resource. I can have Azure SQL database. I can have ADLS, like my storage accounts, everything inside of one. So it's like for those that are using Power BI before, when we talk of workspace, or for those that are using Fabric, talk of workspace, we can have different items inside of that workspace. Like what is now is not like a container that holds related, items together. So in Azure, we call it resource group. It holds all the related resources together in a place, like a logical container that holds different resources together, right? Now we now have the resource itself. SQL database, virtual machine, ADF, all of those kind of different things cannot be inside. Now let's break it down from the point of subscription, right? So you see, inside one subscription, we have 3 resource group, and each resource group now have different resources inside it, right? You see that, you see the way it works, see the hierarchy, right? Okay. Now, let's talk about this hierarchy before we go ahead, because we still have a long way to go. Tenants is the first thing on the hierarchy. What's the difference between Fabric and factory and data? I'm confused. Ragda, can you come again with your question? What do you actually want to ask? Can you hear me? If you can unmute your mic, please do. Or else I'll just go ahead.
Hello. Yes. Hello.
Hello? Yeah.
Sorry for interruption, but actually I'm confused between the fabrics and factory.
Okay.
Where shall I implement fabrics as a solution? I think it comes with business intelligence services like reporting dashboards. Correct me if I'm wrong. While factory is more into data engineering and pipelines, that's what I got. But please correct me if
Okay.
I'm wrong.
Okay.
And also between them and data breaks.
Okay, Let me
Thank you.
clarify, because a lot of people are usually confused about that part, and I will clarify it. So Microsoft Azure is platform as a service. That is that the service is there. You'll be the one to configure your infrastructure the way you want it to do it, right? It's platform as a service, right? Although Azure too also comes with some, it comes with some infrastructure as a service and SaaS, so what we call software as a service, right? Now, Azure is PaaS, platform as a service. You configure the whole architecture, infrastructure, the way you want to do it. Now, we use Azure for data engineering, big data, and all of those analytics in general. It's something we call medallion architecture. You can build your own bronze layer, your silver layer, your gold layer to ensure data consistency and all. Like you are doing data transformation, movement of data from one place to another, right? That is Azure. And there's a lot more that comes with it, right? That's just basic. Now, Fabric is software as a service. It means that all the infrastructure stuff that you set up in Azure, when you get to Fabric, you don't need to do all of that, right? Fabric is a simplified version of Azure. That is, it's more of like drag and drop. It's easy to use, right? It's software as a service. Like it's a combo of different softwares coming together. It is that is Fabric. Now, Databricks is a compute platform. So let me explain how this thing relates. So when we talk about Azure Synapse, for example, it's a unified platform, right? All in one platform. You can do data processing there and all. Now, let me come again. Now, Databricks, as I said earlier, can process big data. I mean, I'm not talking of 5,000 rows of data. I'm talking about billions rows of data. Now, Databricks has what is called a photon engine, right? Now, the people that created Databricks, they are the original inventor of Apache Spark. Apache Spark is the engine that processes big data, right? Now, the Apache Spark inside of Databricks and the one inside of Azure Synapse is different too. The one inside of Databricks can process and can query data faster, like a lightning, faster than the data, because the Apache Spark in Azure Synapse is an open source Spark. It can also process data too, right? But Databricks has more advantage. It's because Microsoft knows that they cannot beat Databricks in terms of the kind of compute power that comes with Databricks. That is why they now had to embed Databricks inside of Azure. It means that you can enjoy different services. Like it means that for your medium size kind of projects, you are good with ADF, you are good with Azure Synapse, right? But when it comes to processing big data, although everything comes at a cost anyway, I mean, the more you use higher compute power, the more your subscription money is going to be reducing. I mean, as fast as it can, right? So let me just summarize it again. Azure is platform as a service that comes with some IaaS and SaaS, that is infrastructure as a service and software as a service. Now, the Fabric is purely software as a service, right? It also has Apache Spark, that means when we talk about lakehouse, processing data, notebooks, and the rest. Now, Databricks has more compute power than the compute inside of your Azure, right? Azure Synapse or Data Factory or whatever. Now, Databricks has more because of the photon engine at the back end that is processing data fast, right? So when companies want to do like big data engineering, they use Databricks inside of Azure. So Databricks has partnered with a lot of cloud platform, right? Like the likes of AWS and GCP, like Google, right? So there's Databricks in Azure, there's Databricks in AWS, there's Databricks in Google Cloud Platform, in GCP, right? Now, but the thing is that database is just like a data processor. It doesn't store data in itself. The underlying data, by the time you finish processing data inside of your Databricks and you load the data back to a particular storage layer, the data is still inside of your storage account, your ADLS Gen 2, is still stored there. What you are seeing inside of your Databricks is just a delta table that you can query and interact with. But the underlying data, the underlying storage file, right, of that delta table is inside of your ADLS Gen 2. So that is the way the architecture works. I don't know whether the way I explain it is, I don't know whether it is clear. Thank you, Yeka. Yeah. All services in ADF are in Fabric. It's a unified platform. Yes.
So Fabric is
Uh,
a unified platform. It's software as a service,
yes,
while
that's for Fabric.
Factory Azure is a platform as a services.
Thank you. Exactly.
Databricks is for computing big data. Apache
For
Spark,
for
implementing Apache
for
Spark.
for big data.
Uh,
Yeah.
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 So this is the main differences. If I
Yes.
got you
So
right.
Databricks does not store data itself. Do you
Yes.
understand me now? It doesn't store data itself, right? Although it has a
But
lakehouse, but the underlying data is still in your storage account.
okay, it's just the delta tables, as you said.
So, by the time you load your data back, it's going to be Delta table, and the underlying packet and the Delta log files are situated inside of your storage account, your Azure storage account.
Uh, Again, please, yeah, big data breaks stores the delta tables or does not stores anything at all.
So you can interact with your data as Delta tables inside of Databricks.
Mm,
So you'll be able to query, manipulate the data, but the underlying place where it is stored is inside of your Azure Data Lake Gen 2.
okay, got
But
you.
inside
Thank you.
Databricks, you'll be able to. So when we talk of Delta table, we mean that packet plus Delta log, right? Which means that we can interact with it like the way we interact with a normal relational database table. Do
Mm.
you understand what I'm saying now?
I'm just confused, a little bit confused about delta, the delta terminology itself. What
Delta
does it
table,
mean?
Delta table.
What does it mean? The terminology itself. What do you mean?
Okay,
What do
so
you
let
mean
me.
about
I will
this?
still. I will still get there anyway. But let me quickly just give you like a little explanation. So when we want to process data inside of Azure, maybe we are building like layers, right?
Mm,
There's what we call packet file storage. It's like a file, it's like a storage file, right? We have CSV, we have JSON and the rest. You know that, right? Like
yes.
CSV is very popular. Now, packet is what we usually use. What we usually so for example, you can have a container that has different CSV files. They are raw files coming from different ERP systems that you just upload it there, right? Now, but if you want to now transform that data inside of Databricks, right? You have to copy that data from that container and move it to another subfolder or directory or whatever as a packet file. Now, packet file is usually it comes with a lot of compression. That means that packet file is usually like 10 times smaller than the size of a CSV. Are you
Mm,
getting my point now? Now, your Databricks will interact well with a packet file, right? Because you are processing big data. Now, delta table, what we call delta table, right, is actually a concept. So what that means is that when you copy data from CSV and in the landing place, it becomes a packet file, right? By the time you use Databricks to process that data and you are loading it back, the concept of delta table is that you are not loading it back alone as just a packet file again. It now comes with the packet file itself plus delta log that we use in tracking the version of that packet file. So the concept of the delta table, data lake table is that you can query the data inside of that packet file like the way you query your normal relational database tables, like the way you query SQL Server tables. I don't know what I'm saying, whether it makes sense or somebody can throw more light.
what I have got is that I can query the data
You can query
that
the
is
data. Yeah.
extracted from. from a parquet
Exactly.
file. So you mean the whole data or just portion of data? يعني, what I got is that I'm dealing with the parquet file as a relational database.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. But what makes it delta table, is that when you also have delta log, what we call the data log files, those log files are what we use to track the different version of that particular package file. So, the package file will have changes. By the time you run your pipeline, more rows get added, right?
Yes.
You delete a row, you do some transformation stuff inside of it from time to
Mm,
time, right?
mm.
That delta log that is attached to the package file now is now what makes up a delta table, because you are now able to track the different versions. Sorry, guys, let me,
Exactly.
yeah.
So I'm not able to manage the previous version of the mapping or the
The good thing is
pipeline.
that you can now refer to a previous version of that file.
Again, please. I'm sorry.
I said you can refer to a previous version of that package file. That's what we call time travel. We call it
Yes, you
time
mean that
travel.
the previous version of that package file is also
So at
available
every
in a
time
database.
you make changes to that file.
Yes.
You maybe new rows are added, some columns are deleted, are removed. You create more columns. At
Mm.
every changes you make, right? It's being logged. It's being logged. It means that you can say you want to look at the version of that package file in the, like, how was what was the state of that file in the past 30 days, and it will give you the version of it in that past 30 days.
Ah, got it. Thank you. Thank you.
It's
Got it.
for time travel. Yeah. Is it
Yes.
clear to you
Now
now?
clear.
Okay,
Now clear.
let's
Thank you.
yeah, no, welcome. Let's go ahead. So we talk about tenants, we talk about management groups. Subscription now is talk about billing and access control, right? Now, all your resource that you create, they are not built separately, they are built together, they are in one subscription, right? Let me move fast. Resource group, I told you, is a logical container that holds all your resources, and you have the resources inside of your resource group. Now let's start creating stuff. Now, what do we want to do this morning? We want to create a resource group. I'm going to show you, for pure beginners, right, how to create, oh sorry guys, how to create a resource group, and how to create resources inside of a resource group. Now, how to create a storage account, that is your ADLS Gen 2, and I'll tell you the difference between ADLS Gen 2 and Azure Blob Storage. What is difference is between them is what we call hierarchical namespace, right? And I also create Azure Data Factory as a resource, and I will show you how to do a simple copy data activity, moving CSV file from a particular container to another container or another folder or subfolder or whatever, right? Please let me know if things are getting clear to you, uh, or it's not clear. Now, please write down your questions. Yes, let's do that. Write down your questions, and don't forget, please write down so that you can ask me when I get to a particular point. So, what is a storage account? It's like a container or a folder in the cloud where you keep different type of files and data. It provides you that secure, scalable, and highly available storage for anything you want to save. So think of it as your cloud hard drive. What you can store inside of a storage account, you can store blobs. You see, sometimes all these concepts, they are just buzzwords, but they're actually things that one can easily understand. But the way some people on YouTube, the way they will explain it and use those buzzwords, you'll be like, this thing is too hard, I cannot understand. But there's no big deal about it. You know, when I started learning Azure, I was like, why didn't I know this thing all this while? It's just because it's just because of fear. Sometimes it's fear. You just feel like it's bogus and unending, and you probably cannot know everything. So when I'm talking about blobs are your files like your CSV, photo, video, logs, right? What can you store in a storage account? Files, right? Like your window file server in the cloud. We have what is called queues for storing messages between applications. We have tables, that is no SQL key value data, and disk. virtual hard disk for virtual machines. Now, why do you need a storage account? Why do you? Because me as a person, when I'm learning anything, I usually ask my tutor, please, what is the why are we doing? You can't just telling me do this. No, you have to tell me reason why I'm doing it. That's the way I understand it. So why do you need a storage account? Because it lets you upload and store data safely, control who can access data. That's where we talk about RABAC, role-based access control. It's a very big topic in Azure, right? And in most cloud platforms, right? You connect it to services like your Azure Data Factory, even Fabric, Synapse, and even your Power BI, right? That means that it means that your storage account can be your data source for your Power BI reports. That's what we are saying here. Now, you can store large amount of data, and you know the funniest part, guys, data storage on the cloud platforms is very cheap. I'm saying cheap is very cheap. What actually eats up your subscription is compute. I'm going to explain that. Now, let's start doing practical stuff now, and let's leave theory for a while. So we are still going to come back to my slide to explain some things, but let's quickly go to the Azure portal. Enough of theory stuff. Let's go into practical. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see my Azure portal? Thank you. How did I get here, guys? I open a new tab, and you go to portal.azure.com. Portal.azure.com. And to tell me to sign in, you see, I'm signed in. I'm signed in. Now you allow it to load, and you will see the home page. Now, if you look at my subscription, it's telling me how much is remaining. I only have 22 Canadian dollars left in my subscription balance. Don't mind me anyway. I was doing some things this month. I started running virtual machines. I didn't know that it was going to be eating up my my subscription. So storage is cheap, compute is expensive. That's the concept of cloud, right? So this is the home page, and you see the recent resources that I used, right? That I've used recently. You see my storage account. You see this is my subscription. Because I'm an MVP and MCT, so I have access to Visual Studio Enterprise subscription from Microsoft. Thanks to Microsoft, I don't need to pay, right? For individuals that want to do personal learning, they will need to create a subscription, attach their debit or credit card, and if God wants to help you, start creating compute stuff that will eat up your. Nobody will tell you before you learn your lesson. So look at Azure services here on this side. And these are like common ones that people use, right? Is what you see on this part, right? And when you go to more services, you will now see clarity, the different categorization of these services inside of your Azure portal. So you see the AI and machine learning. No, I've talked about these things in theory now, but it's not practical. You see the AI and machine learning. There are 20 services there. You see your Azure machine learning, Kinikon, both services, documenting, a lot of them, computer vision, face API. You don't even need to know. You don't even. These are like a lot. You don't even need to know everything. You only need to know the ones that concerns you as a potential or aspiring data engineer or somebody who wants to add Azure to their portfolio, right? You see, for under an analytics category, what do you see there? You see different kind of Power BI embedded is there. Data Lake Storage Gen 1. Which one again? Azure Synapse Analytics, Data Explorer Cluster, Databricks, Stream Analytics. Yeah, there's a lot, guys. Compute 33. Containers too. See containers, right? Under here we have Kubernetes and all the rest. Databases, Cosmos DB, Azure SQL. So these are like when you click on the home button and you go to all services, you will see the different categorization Another good thing is that you can also do a search here. You want to create stuff, you don't know you can't see it here. Oh, it's too much. You don't need to be scrolling everywhere. Just type it here. It will show you the stuff you're looking for, right? So let me go back to my home, right? And this is basically the home. And on in this toggle button, you will see create a resource, your home, dashboard, all services. And what I was saying the other time, that's the actual Active Directory. I think it's now, I told you that it's now called Microsoft Entra ID. Yeah. So you have access to most things you will also see under more services. You have access to them here. So the first thing that we need to do, guys, is to let's take a look at my own subscription. Assuming I don't have subscription before, I have to go and create one. But I already have one. Is what you see here. So if you want to create a subscription, what do? You just click on this add and you follow the steps and you create your own subscription, right? So if you look at, oh, let me go back to that my subscription. I saw something now. Aha, it's telling me that I have used 186. 186 out of like $200 that I have. This is what I've used, the last couple of weeks. And it's usually, I think every month I think it's updates every month. Like this course refreshes every month, right? And as a data engineer, one of the uh, one of the skills that they're looking for in you is for you to be able to help companies to manage costs. For you to be helping, you also have to know how to manage cloud costs in terms of like being knowledgeable about, don't let us use this one. Let's, how to, navigate your way around in such a way that you will still stay within budgets, right? So the first thing I'm going to do, guys, is to create a resource group that holds all our resources. So let me be fast. So I'll go to, where is that? Resource groups. So I already have some resource group here already, but I'll create a new one for sake of this class. Or should I take you through this one and probably show you? Okay, let me take you through this one. So let me open this second resource group that I have here. And in that resource group, what do you see? You see, this is my Azure Data Factory. This is my first database that I created. And I created server, then created database. This is the server showing you differently. And this is another Azure Data Factory that you see here. So what I was saying in theory the other time, that in your resource group is where you will see the different resource that you have. It's like a container. Now, let me now create a new one. I'll create a new, so let me close this. I'm in the resource groups, the resource manager. So I'll create a new resource group. I will call it, I will name it Techie Demo, right? I will call it Techie Resource Group, Techie RG. Now, let's talk about region. There's what they call data centers, right? Where your, because you are not to worry again about having a physical server room, buying disk all the time when you need more storage space. No. Now, Microsoft is the one that is doing that on your behalf at the back, right? They have data centers that they have the physical server there that holds all your resources, right? And the data, their metadata and what is stored inside of them. So now there's this question of, can I have my resource group in a region and have the embedded resources inside another region? So let me come again. For example, I'm in Canada. I want my resource group to be in Canada, but my data factory, SQL database, can they be in another region? Does it work that way, or they have to be in the same place? If they're in the same place, that is the best recommended way it should be. Now, if they are in different places, the problem with that is that because the resource group itself doesn't hold the data inside of those resources, what the resource group holds is the metadata of the resources that you create inside of that resource group. So what does that mean? If something happens to that data center and it crashes, what that means is that your resource group are in another region, they are fine. But the problem is that because where the resource group is another region where data center has crashed. What will now happen is that you will not be able to update or deploy any of your resources inside that resource group because you have put them in different regions, and the resource group that now holds the metadata of that particular of those resources will not be able to update or deploy. Michael Taiwo, please go ahead. Please unmute yourself, Michael Taiwo.
So that was a mistake. Sorry, that was me.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you had a question. So I hope that part is clear to us. Please, I want a yes or a no. So it's always recommended to put both your resource and your resource group in the same region. Also, what determines the region you are going to select here also depends on your company. Your company will have their own policy. Timothy Mayowa, please go ahead.
So I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
If I'm putting my group, let's say I'm in Canada and my resource group is in, let's say, Germany, does that have any cost implication?
No. So region is just where your stuff is being stored. Your resource group and your resources, where they are being stored. So what I'm saying is that now, to choose where your resource group is mostly determined by your company, and your resources determined by your company. You know, they consider what is called data residency requirements, internal company policies, and some people usually prefer to locate their resource group and resources somewhere close to where they are located or where they are doing their operations. Is it clear, Timothy?
Okay.
Yeah, so it all depends. It's not like a decision that just only you can make. You have to follow your company's policy about where you create your location for your resource group and your resources. So because I'm in Canada, I don't want trouble. Let me just create it here. I hope that the data center does not crash. Right? So you pick your subscription here. I'm using Visual Studio Enterprise subscription. I have resource group, my resource group name. My region is Canada Central. Canada has any other one? I think it's not Canada Central. There's no other place in Canada. There's no, when it comes to region, it's only one region we have in the whole of Canada. Wow, that's bad. Okay, so tags. What do you mean by tag? So this tag is not actually compulsory, but tag is just it's just like an identifier for grouping stuff. So you want to be able to identify different stuff based on the tags. So you can attach tags, but it's not compulsory, right? So just click on next. Nothing much is validating. I can see my stuff and I'll click on create. Now I have created this resource group. If I refresh this page now, if I refresh this now, I will see the new one that I just created. Let me refresh the entire page. Let me refresh the entire page. You see now, I've created this resource group now, the container for my resources. So I'll enter this resource group now, right? And I will now start creating resources. The first resource that I will create is my storage account. That's the first resource I will create, my storage account. So where I'm going to upload my CSV and now copy it as parquet that my data breaks or Synapse can now use for manipulation and processing, right? So I'm now going to click on create. Now, when you click on create, you will take it back to this marketplace where you can now look for the exact resource you want to create. So I want to create storage accounts. Type storage, and I'll click on enter. And I will look for it. See it here, guys. This is it. See storage accounts. Now you see the create button down here. You click on create and you click on storage accounts. And you now have to do some settings, configuration, right? Now, storage account name. Now let's go back to my slide and see some things that we are going to do. So choose your subscription you want to build. So for storage account, the first thing that we will do is to attach a subscription to the storage account, attach it to a resource group, the one that we just created. Now, the name of that storage account must be unique globally. That's one funny thing. I don't know why they did it that way. Anyway, but it must be unique globally. It's lowercase letters plus numbers only. I don't think that you can even, I'm not sure that you can even, I don't think it allows for space. Maybe I'm going to use minus or underscore, something in between your, So let me call this one the Techie storage account 1. You see now, it doesn't allow capital letters. So Techie SA1, and it will let you know if it's accepted. Okay, it doesn't bring any error. That means it's accepted. So region, it's in Canada Central. I want my source group and my sources to be in the same region, right? Your preferred storage type, is either blob storage or Azure Data Lake Gen 2. The difference in the two, let me explain it to you, because so that we will understand it. Difference between storage, Data Lake Gen 2, what they call Data Lake Gen 2, and Azure Blob Storage is that when you don't enable what is called hierarchical namespace, it becomes a blob storage. But when you enable, you check box that setting, hierarchical namespace, it becomes Azure Data Lake Gen 2. Now, what is hierarchical namespace? HNS. What hierarchical namespace means is that it's what gives you the ability to have your storage accounts work like a file system. You know, on your computer, you have folders, subfolder. Inside the subfolder is another subfolder. See, you understand what I'm saying? That is the way, that is hierarchical namespace. When you enable it, it allows your storage accounts to be able to uh work like a file system. That's just the simple way I can explain it. But if you don't enable that hierarchical storage namespace, what will happen is that you will have that a blob storage. It means that you don't have that. Even if you are seeing something like a subfolder, it's a fake folder part. It's not like a real file system. I don't. That's the best way I can explain it, guys. I don't know. I mean, maybe you probably go and do like more research online to actually understand it better. But that's the simplest way I can explain it. So I'll click on Azure Blob Storage, or we also have Azure Files and all of those. So I'm going to click on Azure Blob Storage. My primary workload. This is where this is what determines the kind of workload you want to use this storage account for. Whether you want to use for big data analytics, you see the wordings there. Host a data lake for big data analytics. For this one, if you want it to be just for backup and archive, for archiving data, you can know companies do that. They do archiving because I don't know. Maybe it might be for just saving data there. Just let it be there. In case something happens, we have to refer back to that data of 1996, And there's cloud native, high performance computing. So what the solution you want to build will determine what you're going to pick here. But the one that we're going to pick here is the big data analytics, right? Okay. Now let's scroll down. Now, there is standard and there is premium for the performance section. You know that one thing about the cloud platform is that they will allow you to do anything you want to do. Like if you want to set up very high stuff, there's no problem. Just know that you are paying more. Just know that you are paying more. That the more compute you use, the higher your compute configuration, the more your solution is going to eat up, right? But the lesser your compute configuration, the lesser your sub is going to eat up. But let's go. So let's look at difference between, go back to my slide. Let's look at difference between the, what do we call it? The premium performance and the standard. Now the standard is the default one. It's cheaper for most workload. It's cheaper when you choose the standard performance, but the premium is for high level kind of deployments, right? Virtual machine disk, database, and the rest. But me, I'm going to choose standard because I don't want my sub to, to eat up. So I'm going to pick standard. Now, there's this thing they call redundancy. Let me adjust my screen. Sorry, guys. just my screen. There's this thing they call what? Redundancy. And I'm going to explain what they mean. Look at what we have here. Locally redundant storage, geo-redundant storage, zone redundant storage, and geo-zone redundant storage. These are simple terms. Let me now explain it to you. So redundancy means replication. So for example, now, if I choose a particular type of redundancy, one might be that I'm only storing that data. I'm only storing my resources inside of just one data center. But that's risky anyway, because if that data center crashes, it means that you will not be able to access that data at that time that the whole crash thing happened. But when you choose some other options, you might save your resources in different data centers. It's creating a copy of your resources to another data center within a region. But so what that means is that in case one of the data center crashes, you will still be able to access that particular resource and resource group, because there's a replica of it stored in another data center, right? Some will even do another one that it might even go beyond the region. The resource might replicate to another region. Timothy.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Earlier on, you mentioned something about when a data center is not functioning or something happens, and again, you just mentioned it now. So what happens if I use the locally redundant, and let's say something bad happens to Microsoft data center in my region, maybe it caught fire or something, that's the end of my file, or do they have a backup for me?
I don't know much about data centers, sincerely. That's not my area. But I don't know, maybe they have a backup within the system, but I'm sure they will have in their uh processes. I don't know, sincerely. But I'm sure they would have something like that. Sincerely, I don't know. Don't let me tell you what I don't know. But is to be on the safer side, most companies usually prefer to replicate their resources in different data centers, just to be on the data side, because anything can actually happen. Anything can happen. Is that clear? So I'm going to
Yes.
explain now the difference. Now, local redundancy. Local redundancy. What does that mean? Local redundant storage. That means that your data is copied 3 times, but it's still within the same data center. Your resources are replicated 3 times, but it's still within the same data center, right? That is for local redundant storage. Now, it is the cheapest, right? And it protects against hardware failure. So not yeah, you only use it because you want low cost. You want to reduce your cost, and you don't need the regional redundancy. That is, you don't need regional replication. Now, the zone redundant, the ZRS, your data is stored across 3 availability zones in the same region. The same region, but 3 different zones, right? It don't protect against data center failure or zone outages, right? It has higher durability than the local redundant storage, right? Now, when do we use this? You want high availability within the same region and low latency. Now, let's go to the geo-redundant storage. This one combines the first one, RLS, plus the region to region replication. Data is copied 3 times locally, right? Then replicated to a secondary region hundreds of kilometers away. That's the geo-redundant copy. It's copying to another region, right? It protects against regional outages. So there is data center, zone, region. That's like the hierarchy, if I'm correct. This one protects against regional disaster, right? Now, the last one, which is the topmost one, is the geo-zone redundant. geo-zone redundant storage. What does that mean? That one is the most durable, strongest protection. It combines the zone redundant one, right, in primary region, and a replication of that to secondary region. It survives zone failure, region failure, data center failure, right? You use this one when you need both zone level and regional level resilience for what? Mission critical data. You don't want that's like the the top one when it comes to protecting your data, protecting stuff, right? So the one I'm going to choose, because I'm just doing a demo anyways, I don't need something that is too high. So I think I will go for the local redundant, that's one data center, or I go for geo redundant. Let me go for local redundant so I don't eat up on my subscription, right? I think, I'm not sure, I think I did some research sometimes, and maybe the research, I was able to get the fact that probably I think the prices of storage per region varies. Don't quote me, please, I'm not sure if what I'm saying is actually 100% correct, but I think I've seen something like that before in an article. Well, let's go ahead. So we've done the basic configuration. Now we move to the advanced one. In the advanced one, you see what I told you about difference between Azure Blob Storage and Azure Data Lake Gen 2 is this enabling hierarchical namespace, right? Now, requires secure transfer of REST API operation. I don't need all of these things. Sometimes, so if you're working in a very standard organization that they have very good IT infrastructure, you might not be the one doing this whole setup. The DevOps team will be the one doing this. So you don't need to really worry yourself too much about it, right? I hope that's clear to us. So, but as a data engineer, aspiring data engineer, you also have to know how to configure all of these things, because it's not all companies that you have all those things that you desire or that you want. Sometimes you'll be the one to do everything. That's the world we find ourselves. There's nothing we can do about it. Enable storage account access key. Do I need that? No. So even me, to be sincere with you, I don't even know what all of these things they mean. I just use the default settings and what I understand. Do you understand what I'm saying? Aha. So if you are not sure of what to pick, you can do some small research by the side to find out exactly what you need to choose in this thing. So blob storage is if you want to allow cross-tenant replication, right? But we don't have cross-tenant in this scenario. So now let's go to access tier. I will go back to my what's it called? To my now look at this access tier, guys. We have the hot tier, we have the cool tier, and we have the cold tier. What do they mean? Hot tier is when you need to access files very frequently, you configure hot tier, right? It is more expensive. I told you that cloud, it will allow you to do anything. Just know that the higher your configuration, the higher your money, right? So hot tier is more, from the way it sounds, it's hot, right? So it's more expensive to store, cheaper to read. Look at it too. Expensive to store when it is in hot tier, but cheaper to read. Okay. This is best for data engineering files, Power BI files, ADF pipelines, CSV package used daily, lakehouse warehouse injection for analytics projects. Choose hot. Cool is so we use this one to access files. So you start up this one when you are only accessing the file occasionally, maybe once in a month. You don't go there frequently. This one is cheaper to store, but expensive to read. You see right? This one is best for backups, old reports, logs that I rarely check. Now, code tier is a newer option. This sits between cool and archive, right? You use when you hardly ever touch the file, maybe once in every few months or a year. The cost is cheaper than cool. Higher read restore cost. Minimum 90 days retention. Best for long-term storage, compliance data, files you want to keep but you don't need often. Interesting. Let's go back. So I'm going to put it in hot because I'm using it for analytic purposes, right? So I'm going to go to next. Now, there's another one for networking. Networking one is a very interesting one too. There's what we call private endpoints. Something that has to do with you can only access these storage accounts if you are in a particular IP address. I don't know what I'm saying, whether it makes sense to us, guys. Like you can configure in such a way. Now, and networking also works with security and protecting your storage accounts. So when you set up public network access, that is not if you are deploying on production, you can't do publicly. Doesn't make sense. But for the sake of learning, we can put it as public network access for learning's sake. But for production enterprise solution that you are building for your organization for all your other clients, you have to use a private what's it called? A private endpoint. A private endpoint. Does that make sense to us, guys? So I'm going to put this one in public. I enable from all networks. I'm not doing any private endpoints here. I go to next. I can leave these other ones there at default though. I don't want to do anything. I don't know much like about everything here, right? You can configure some other things like enable pointing, restore for containers, blah 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 blah. I don't need all of this. I'll go to the next one. Encryption. Do you want to use Microsoft managed keys or customer managed keys? Enable support for customer managed keys, blob and files only, all services. So it all depends on what you want to encrypt or how you want to configure your encryption, right? Next thing I move to is tags. I'm not creating any tag here. So I will allow it to validate and then I can now click on. So this is like for you to be able to check all the settings that you have done. You want to enable and disable, enable, disable, enable, disable. Check everything again. Then you can now click. If you've ascertained that what you've done is okay, right? Then you can now let me go to previous again and go and adjust something. This one should be all services. So you see now, this option cannot be changed after this storage account is created. So you have to be careful to check that there are some settings that you cannot go and change again when you have created the storage account. So check very well, guys, before you create an account. So now I will review and then validate. After validation, then I click on create. I have to be fast now. Our time is fast spent. So now I've configured my storage account. I've configured my storage. So it's still deploying. I'll give it a few seconds for it to deploy. If you have any questions while this is deploying, ask me before we go ahead. You can unmute yourself or use the chat section. Any question, guys, so far? If there's none, I'm going to move ahead.
Yes,
Oh.
the hierarchy namespace check. Will you please explain again whether when I checked
Hierarchical
this?
namespace is what separates a storage, Azure Blob Storage from what's it called? Azure Data Lake Gen 2. So what it means is that inside your storage account, it gives you that flexibility of interacting with it like a file system. You know, on your computer system now, you have this file explorer, right? And in the file explorer, you can have folders, subfolder. That's what that will give you if you check hierarchical namespace, which I did. Do you understand? But if you don't check it, it's just going to be like a flat file system. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Now that I've created this as a resource, I'm going to go to resource. Now, when I go to my resource, the next place I'm going to go to is my storage browser, right? It's my storage browser. And you will see blob containers, file shares, tables, and queue. Let me explain what that means before we go ahead and create our pipeline. Because some people, that's what they are waiting for. Just show me the pipeline. All this one, I don't need those explanation.
I have a question.
Okay, Timothy, go ahead, please.
Can I delete a resource? How do I, maybe before the end of the class, you could show us how to delete a resource group after creating one?
I'll show you that, but
if I create it and I
please
don't
go
need it
and
anymore.
use resource group inside production. Because all the resources that are there, we go. Please, so. But I'll show you. Thank you. So when we talk about blob container, this one, the one you are seeing here. The one you are seeing here, blob container. I'm explaining to you. So in blob container is where we can store files like files. We can store CSVs, photo, video, logs, and all. File shares. That one's like it's for storing Windows file server in the cloud. I don't even know what that means. Queues for storing messages between. I think I've explained this thing before. Then tables, no SQL, key data value. Okay, let's go ahead, please. So where I'm going to is my blob container. So you see this log one there by default. It will be there. By default, you see it there. This log one. Now you create a new container, add container. This container, let's call it our landing, our raw. Let's call it raw. We call it raw container. The container name must start with a letter or a number. Use only lower cases. Oh, sorry. Please mute yourself. Oh, where am I getting that echo from? Raw, right? Did I set this thing to? I didn't set it to. These are some of the issues. I didn't set this into private. This thing. I think I should be able to. How can I change it? Where can I change that to? Yeah, I'm still gonna come back here. I'm coming. Where can I change this setting? So, just hold on for me, guys. I'm coming. Allow open. Coming. Is it even this place? Ah. Okay. I think I need to save this one first. And let me go to networking. I don't have any this thing. So public access. Enable from all networks. Allow inbound and outbound access to options that restricts. Secured by parameter, no. Public network access scope. I've enabled from all network. From select, no, I don't want it. I don't want the private this thing. I don't want. So let me save and I'll go back. I'll go back to storage browser. Go back to containers. I'll create a new one now. So I'm still going to do something here. So don't worry, guys, about that. Let's go ahead. Raw. Then I'll create this my container. Right? Inside my container, I can now create a directory. And I'll call this my directory. So when it's raw is what can I call this directory? Let me just say landing. And I click on save. This is where I'm going to upload my stuff. So I have a container now. Let me create another container. Let me call that container bronze layer. It's not allowing me put that this thing out of minus. Doesn't allow me put special characters. Let me just call it bronze layer. Oh, usually it's a capital letter, sorry. Bronze layer. Okay, it's allowed me now. Bronze minus layer. Yeah. I click on create. Okay. Hold on for me, guys. See if I can do change access level from private. Anonymous read access for container and blobs. In the storage account. Okay, no problem. I can find a way and change this. Okay. Then I'll go back to my bones layer now and create another new directory. And I'll call this one staging. Let me just call it staging, and I click on save. So I will now go and upload. I will go and upload. What's it called? Some files in my raw and landing directory. So I'll click on upload, and to tell me to upload, I'll go to browse. Go to this is my file. I have some CSV files there. I have album, I have artist, I have customer. So I will just upload these three alone for the sake of today's class, right? And I will click on upload. Yeah. So what I uploaded now is the CSV, right? 3 CSV files. Now, the next thing I'm going to now do now, I'll go back to my, what's it called? To my resource group. So I've created my storage account, ADLS Gen 2. I have uploaded some files inside my directory. The next thing I'm creating now, oh, let me go to my resource group, sorry. I'll now create Azure Data Factory for creating pipelines. So I'll click on create here inside the resource group, and I'll type data factory, right? Data factory. And I'll click on, see it here. See, this is the logo. And I'll click on create data factory. We're almost done, guys. I'm trying to rush most of our time. So you attach it to a subscription and a resource group. And what do you call this? Your data factory. We can call it Techie ADF, Azure Data Factory. And this now, let's look at this now. Is it East US? I'll put it in Canada Central. So I have Canada Central. That's where my resource group is. So Canada Central, this is version 2. And I'll click on next. Configure Git later, yes. Next. Networking, I'm not doing anything on networking. It's public endpoints, right? The factory, data factory encryption, I'm not doing anything there. Tags, no. Review, and create. Okay, now I click on create. Now I've created an Azure Data Factory as part of my resource inside the resource group. So that one too is deploying. You wait for a few. So you go to resource. And I'm going to refresh. Now I can see that data factory now. You see it now? I can see it here. So I will click on the data factory that I just created. And data factory has its own studio, another UI, not in here, that you will go and start deploying stuff. So I'll click on Launch Studio. I'll click on Launch Studio. Take me to another UI entirely. That's the Azure Data Factory Studio. So this is the interface of the ADF Studio, right? Now, this is like the home page you are seeing now for your Azure Data Factory. Now, there are different tabs here. You see, here's Home, here's Auto. Inside Auto is where you create pipelines, configure your data sets. It even has Power Query, data flows inside of it. CDC, right? I've not actually explored this before anyway. Now, let's go to Monitor. Monitor is where you monitor your pipelines, whether they are running, whether this is successful, whether your pipeline has failed. You see all of those inside of here. If you have trigger runs is like pipelines that you have scheduled. That okay, this pipeline should run every 4 days, every Thursday, every 11 p.m. This is where you can monitor trigger runs. Pipeline runs is the pipelines that you manually trigger by yourself, right? The manage here is the part where you work with what is called link service, integration runtime. Now, integration runtime, let me talk about that. Azure already has its own integration runtime. So when we say integration runtime in the context of Azure Data Factory, what we mean by that is that this is the compute engine that allows you to move data from a source to destination. That is the integration runtime, right? The compute engine in ADF, Azure Data Factory, that allows you to move data from one source and sync it in a particular destination. Is that clear? Now that is integration runtime. Link services. For people that have used SSIS before, single server integration services, right? You know what is called connection string, right? The thing that you'll be used to. So connection string is not the data itself, is the link to the data, right? So the first thing that you first need to do before doing anything on ADF is to create your own linked services. So let's create one. I click on new. And where am I connecting to? What will be my data source? So you can create link services for both your source and destination. So my source is Azure Data Lake Gen 2. See it here. I'll click on it here and I'll click on continue. Right? Now it's connecting via the integration runtime, the default one that Azure has. Right? Authentication type, I can put it as I can leave it as so there are different ones here. We have the account key, we have the service principal. That's another concept entirely. I don't want to go into that today. We have the what we call what do we call this SAS again? I forgot, shared access signature. Yeah, URI. We have system assigned managed identity, and we have user assigned managed identity. Right? So we can leave it at account key for now. Now choose your subscription. This is my subscription. Your storage account that I'm referring to is the Techie SA1 that we just created, right? I'm going to text my connection. Let me test connection. It says connection to successful. I'm now going to create a link service to that storage account that I created, which is my ADLS Gen 2. So now I created a link to that account, so that's storage account. Now I'll go back to my monitor. The next thing that I would do after creating my link service, the next thing that I'm going to do is to create data sets. Now, when I say data set, I do not mean the data itself now. When I say data set means the metadata of your data, your data location. It's just a metadata of the data that is stored in the particular data source, right? So you see data set here, click on these three dots and say create new data set. And where is your data set? It's inside here, Azure Data Lake Gen 2. You click on continue. Now, these are the different file formats, storage file formats that you can have inside of your ADLS Gen 2. Avro, binary, delimited text, Excel, iceberg, JSON, ORC, Parquet, which is very popular, XML. But the one that we are dealing with for our source is what? Is CSV. So I'm going to pick the limited text. Is what I'm going to choose here. I'm going to click on continue. Now, what do I call this? What do I call this? So let me just leave the default name there. Limited text one. What is my link service? The one I created that can allow me link to the ADLS Gen 2. So I'll click on the link service that I created, and I'm going to choose a path in my file path, right? I'll click on browse. My files are inside raw. The file is inside landing. So I'm going to, because I'm not moving these three as Parquet. I'll do two examples if time permits us. Maybe I'll just do one because of our time. I'll only move this album CSV from the raw state. I'll move it to a bronze layer where Synapse and database can access it for processing. So I'm going to click on, just give me a second there. Sorry about that, guys. So I'm going to copy this. So I'm copying this CSV file as Parquet. That's what I want to do. So this raw landing is my source. And the other one that I created, I call that one bronze layer staging. That will be my destination. Right? So it's moving from CSV. By the time it gets to the bronze layer, it becomes a Parquet file. So I'm going to click on album.csv. I'm going to click on OK. So that is my file path for my source. And I'm going to click on OK here. So use first row as headers. Yeah, correct. So you can also do some settings here. So now you can even preview your data. Preview. You see, this is the data that you want to move. Just a preview, just give you the first 10 rows, right? Okay, you can close. Now, I want to now create another data set, which is the metadata for my location too, for my destination rather. So I'll come here, I'll click on new data sets. Now, where's my destination? My destination is still within my ADLS Gen 2. I'll click on continue, right? And this time around, by the time it gets to destination, it becomes a package file. So I'm going to click on package this time, not CSV now, package now. Click on package, and I'll click on continue. I'll just leave the name as package 1. And my link service, it is still that same one I created. So link service is not to the file, it's to the platform you are connecting to, right? So, and now I'm going to choose that actually data storage one, which is the link service I created. Now, let me now go and choose my file path for my destination. It's the bronze layer, right? And it should be inside the staging directory, like that's the folder. So the bronze layer is like the roots folder, and this one is like a subfolder inside the root folder. Then I click on OK, right? And then now there is some dynamics to this. You see this option, import schema, right? It means that if I want to maintain the same schema coming from my CSV file, I want my package file to maintain the same. Although there is a concept called, if I remember vividly, a concept called schema drift, right? Which might imply that sometimes there are some data, there are some column data types that are recognized in CSV. By the time you get to package, it might be another thing entirely, right? So sometimes, depending on what you are building, kind of pattern that you are building, will determine whether you want to import the same schema coming from the source. You want to import that same schema to your destination. But there are situations whereby, maybe for example, you are moving data from package to Azure SQL database. You might set the schema as none, because the schema type for Azure SQL database and your package or your CSV, depending on what you are moving from where to what, will determine whether you want to import the same schema or you don't want to import that schema coming from the source. I hope that's clear to us. So I can leave it at import schema, and I click on OK. Right? So I've created data set for my what? For my destination. And the next thing I will now do is to go to my pipeline and create a new pipeline, right? Now, we have what is called pipeline activities. Pipeline activities. Now, we have different kind of pipelines based on their category. Pipeline activities rather, based on their categorization. So we have the activities that are meant for moving and transforming data. We have the one for Synapse, notebooks, Synapse notebooks, and Spark job definition. Sorry, guys. We have Azure Data Explorer. Now, there is the transformation activities. There is control activities. I've forgotten. Oh my God, the third one, right? But these are where you will see different activities, right? Depending on what you want to build, right? So you see this publish button here. It's like you are committing, you are saving your work. It's like, oh, my work is in progress, so I will save it. Because if I refresh this page and I do not publish, everything I've done this morning will clear away. Everything will go if I did not click on publish. So please, before you click on refresh, I beg go click on publish, please. So I click on publish. Oh, publish error. What's the error? Pipeline should have at least one activity. Okay. So don't let me publish it until I create my pipeline. So the most common and very friendly, easy to do activity, mostly in pipelines, is copy data activity. Copy data activity. Now, copy data activity is good, moving data from one place to another, but it has limitations in terms of You cannot do advanced transformations with copy data activity. So you are limited in terms of what you can transform, how you can transform data, to the extent to which you can transform. You can do some transformation, but that is only to the point of mapping, when we get to mapping. But let's go. So this copy data activity, I can rename it and I can call it CSV to parquet, right? This one is optional, give description. This way I can determine whether the activity will be activated or deactivated. You see it here, guys. Now, this activity, I can set a retry, number of retry. If it fails, it should retry one more time, 2 more time, but for now, I'm putting that is 0 anyway, because I'm not like scheduling it any trigger for this pipeline, right? So I'll go to my source. I'll go and configure my source. What is my source? My source is that CSV file. That is my data set here. I'll click on the CSV file. Now, my file path type, I'm choosing file path in data sets because I'm using just one file. I'm copying just one file. If I'm moving different files, I can use the wildcard. We call it wildcard file paths. It means that I can tell it that in my source, so all the files that are there, they are CSV. And I can say star.csv to tell it that all my, that's if I'm moving like different files though, right? But I'm not using this option. I'm not using the list of files. I'm using only file paths in data sets, right? Now, this recursively, this option, I usually use it if I want to move different files at once. I want to like parameterize it and move different files at once, right? And I want to move the files that are there and also move the files that are probably in the subfolder of that folder and move everything. Now, it might be for the sake of merging data together as one, or you can, it's what we called, it's what is called preserve hierarchy. You still want to get destination the way it's coming from the source. Don't worry, you'll see what I'm saying by the time we, so I don't need to actually, I'm not using recursively. I'm not like doing any sort of I'm not doing any sort of I'm not parameterizing, I'm not breaking different files together at once. I'm only selecting one file, right? So I can uncheck that option. Now let me configure my sync. Where is it going to sync? Right? It's going to stick in the parquet data set that I created, right? And now, funny, my copy behavior, I have flatten hierarchy, merge hierarchy, and preserve hierarchy. Merge is for if you have different CSV file. Sometimes the way they will download and upload the CSV file, it might be of different date range. And you now want to maintain it as one single file. That's when you use the merge file. If you want to preserve hierarchy, that one means that if it is called albums.csv, music.csv, by the time it gets to parquet, it should maintain album.parquet, music.parquet. That's preserving hierarchy, right? So I don't need to even choose any option there because I'm only dealing with just one file, right? So I choose my parquet, and for my mapping, I can import the schema from CSV to if I want to, right? I can choose to clear the schema coming from the CSV. And now the next thing I'm going to do now is that I'm going to validate if this thing has no problem, if I can run it, if it is going to be fine to run it. Then I'm going to validate. I'll click on validate. And it said your pipeline, that no errors were found. Okay. Now let me debug. Debug is for testing whether if you deploy this pipeline, it's going to be successful, right? So I can let me click on debug. And you will see your pipeline status. So I will have to be refreshing in progress in queue. I have to refresh. This way you will know whether it will fail or it will be successful. Sometimes with pipeline fail, you are frustrated. I'm saying, what did I do wrong? You see now, succeeded. This is the happiest moment of one's life. When you see succeeded, it's like they gave you visa. I'm telling you. So now I've debugged and I saw that if I actually run this pipeline, it's going to copy the data from CSV to Parquet in different container. So I'm going to now add, to add a trigger. It's like, when you say trigger now, that's the manual one. When you click on new and edit, that's if you want to set up, you click on new here, you see, set up the trigger interval for your pipeline. This is schedule, what we call schedule, orchestration, to orchestrate it, right? For example, I can say every 15 minutes. I can change the minute, I can change it to hours, every 15 hours, 15 days. I can change the number of days here every week. So you can set it up the way you want. I'm going to cancel anyway. I'm not doing any sort of I'm not doing, because that one will be chopping he'll be eating my subscription money now. So I'm not doing any schedule for this thing. So I just click on add trigger and trigger now. Right? Oh, pipeline is not formed. So I have to publish first, you see. You publish, that is like you are saving your work. You publish it first, you allow it to publish, then you now run the pipeline. Thank you. So I click on, oh, I might debugging again now. Oh, how can I cancel this thing now? So let me add a trigger and say trigger now. And I click on. So I can now go to and view my pipeline. How will I view my pipeline? You will go to monitor. You see now, see your pipeline that you are running. I'll click on this pipeline one that I'm running. It's telling me that it's still in queue. I can be refreshing to see the status. It's in progress now. I can refresh again. I can refresh again. Succeeded, guys. Succeeded, no error. By the time you start doing some more complex one, you will see error tire. I'm sorry I'm using that word, but it's the truth of the reality of things, right? Succeeded. Now, how will I know that this thing has worked? I'll go back to my storage account. I created two, what was it called? I created two containers in my storage account. So I'll go to storage browser. I will go to my blob storage. So this is my source. This is the raw file. Landing. That's 3 files there. Album.csv is part of the file. This is the one I copied as Parquet. I'll go back to my blob storage again. I'll go to my bronze layer now and go to that my staging. And what do you see? The file has been copied from one container to another, from CSV to Parquet now. So guys, I have come to the end of today's demo on introduction to Azure for data engineering. If you have questions for me, I'm available to answer your questions now. Thank you very much, guys. It's an honor to be here with you, to hear from a small boy like me. Any questions, guys? Thank you, Timothy. Thank you, Abdurrahim. Thank you, Bola and everybody. Thank you. Any questions so far? You can unmute your mic now. Oh, seems it's clear to everybody. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, guys. So if there are no questions, please, guys, fill the it's my personal slide, Victor. I'm sorry, I cannot share. But I can maybe probably share like
I
a
have a
PDF version of
question.
it. Ask your question, please, Timothy.
Please do not forget to show how to delete the resource group.
Oh, the resource
Also,
group. Okay.
this particular
So this, sorry,
pipeline
before you
that
go
we
ahead, sorry.
built. I know.
Before you go ahead, please, sorry.
Yeah.
See this delete resource groups is already
Okay.
here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see now.
Okay, your next question now.
So this pipeline, I see that actually taking data from the local disk to the cloud. What if the data that we have, let's say, in a
we've
typical
uploaded
organization?
it. Okay, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, we uploaded it.
Yeah.
But what if maybe in enterprise environment, of course, the data would not come from my laptop. It will come from maybe a CRM or something. Then I want it to automatically go to, where will I go to? Can you show us a place where that kind of link happens between, the CRM
okay, so
to,
for me,
yeah.
I have not done direct CRM to, well, I know maybe they use like API to do that. Do you understand? I've not done that direct CRM too, but maybe some companies, sometimes, see, don't let us be thinking that those companies, when you get there, they will have high infrastructure. Sometimes they might be downloading the CSV from the CRM. Let me tell you the facts. I know you might call it enterprise, but the truth of the matter, that's what happens sometimes. Don't overhype these companies sometimes. They are not perfect. But there probably might be a way, but I've not explored that fast before. Yeah. Any other question, guys? So this section is just to encourage you that you can start learning Azure. Go ahead, Tunde.
Yeah, please, if you delete a resource group or a VM, is there a way you can bring it back if need be?
Sincerely, I've not done my research to that point of. I told you that I'm still learning, right? I've not done my start up to that point of knowing how to do, like, how to, like, create backups for stuff. I don't know. So I've not been able to answer you today on that. Any other question? Oh, there's a way you can bring it back. Abraham is saying that. Please, Abraham, can you tell us?
We have to schedule or updating the data in the pipeline.
I cannot hear you very well, Ragda. I cannot hear you very well. Can you come again?
Triggers, the topic triggers that we have discussed, it means that what I got is that it's a kind of scheduling or to يعني, to it's scheduling the mapping or the pipeline, right?
Yes, to schedule the pipeline, yes. So if you click on this trigger now, that one is the manual one. You do it by yourself. But the schedule one is the new /edit. You schedule the interval. That is the part of orchestration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other question, guys? So we have a YouTube channel. You guys can follow our YouTube channel. Julian, please share the YouTube channel link. We have a lot of nice content on our YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have Power BI videos there, database admin videos are there, Power BI videos are there. I mean, guys, enjoy the content, watch, subscribe, like, share with everybody. I will see you guys again until we all get to the top. Bye for now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benga.